In this episode, some of the names have been changed. Outside the city limits of Madison, the serene landscape of Sauk County, Wisconsin is a popular destination for people looking to enjoy the outdoors. Around 4 p.m. on July 30th, 1999, a woman and her son were hiking a trail along the shores of the Wisconsin River. The young boy noticed a plastic grocery bag at the water's edge. A closer look revealed the skeletal remains of a human hand. The mother quickly summoned police. Officers from the Sauk County Sheriff's Department responded to the scene. The hand was still attached to the arm, which had been precisely severed at the shoulder joint. Unsure what to make of the finding, police decided to spread out and search the area. Scattered along the shoreline, they discovered several trash bags. Inside were more human remains. Detectives recovered the head and torso of what appeared to be an African-American woman. Her face and scalp had been sliced from the skull.
17-1.
All of the unidentified remains were collected and sent on for a more detailed analysis. For Detective Joe Welsh of the Sauk County Sheriff's Department, the measures taken by the killer to conceal the victim's identity were telling.
The skin had been removed and placed in a separate garbage bag. It appeared that it was removed in a skillful fashion, that the person that was doing it knew what they were doing.
To find the killer, investigators knew they would first have to identify the victim. By studying the remains, the medical examiner concluded that the woman was 5 feet 1 to 5 feet 3 inches tall and was likely between the ages of 18 and 25. The level of decomposition suggested she had been dead for at least 5 days. Examiners were able to obtain fingerprints from the victim's hands. Hoping the prints were on file, investigators ran them through the FBI's National Fingerprint Database. But there were no matches. Sauk County Sheriff Randy Stamen would have to find another way to give this victim a name.
We initially thought that we'd be able to generate fingerprints and make a comparison and identify the body of the victim, feeling that if we could make that identification, we'd have a very good chance of solving the crime. When that failed, then the next step, obviously, was to put out a physical description and a photograph. The problem we had there was that we didn't have a face on our victim.
Flesh that remained on the victim's skull held the only clues to the woman's identity. And investigators knew that sending the severed head to a forensic artist for a facial reconstruction would destroy that evidence. But scientists at the Milwaukee School of Engineering believed they could help. They requested a CAT scan of the woman's head. Engineers believed that by using the CAT scan, they could possibly create an exact three-dimensional paper replica of the skull, which could then be used by a forensic artist to reconstruct the victim's likeness. And no evidence would be destroyed in the process. Engineering professor Dr. Lisa Milkowski.
In this case, we're trying to produce a replica that looks like and is very similar to an actual skull. And the paper layers look like, feel like an actual skull.
First, engineers had to convert the data from the CAT scan into a computerized three-dimensional model. The resulting information was then transferred onto a disk. Next, the data was subjected to a process called rapid prototyping. Normally, rapid prototyping technology is used to test engineering designs that have been created on the computer. The process converts the computer model into an actual three-dimensional replica made of laminated paper, allowing engineers to analyze it for design flaws. The process had never been used in a forensic setting. First, the three-dimensional model of the skull was broken down into flat two-dimensional layers. Then, carbon dioxide lasers began precisely tracing each layer onto a sheet of paper. Each unique cutout is then layered on top of each other, fused together with glue.
The layering process that is used when constructing an object with rapid prototyping is similar to thinking about slices in a loaf of bread. The entire loaf is three-dimensional in nature, but each slice is flat. The same thing is done when we construct an object with paper layers. We start out with a single paper layer, just like a sheet of paper, and the laser traces out the shape on that single layer. And as all these layers are stacked together, each one having a unique cutout, we come up with this three-dimensional object.
The resulting block of paper is whittled down until the replica is all that remains. 40 hours later, nearly 10,000 sheets of laminated paper had gone into creating an exact paper reproduction of the victim's skull. Investigators decided to send the replica several hundred miles away to the Kentucky State Crime Lab. There, Dr. Emily Craig, a renowned forensic anthropologist and a leader in facial reconstruction, was asked to put a face on the paper skull.
The possibility of doing a clay reconstruction on a prototype skull was actually kind of exciting. To my knowledge, I don't think anyone in this country had done it for victim identification.
To bring this victim to life, Dr. Craig attached tissue depth markers to several different points on the skull. These markers reflect the average thickness of skin for people of similar race, age, and sex. Before molding the facial features, however, Dr. Craig has to be certain that the eyes selected will be of the same size and shape as those of individuals similar to the victim. Guided by the spatial arrangements of the victim's skull, the eyes are precisely set into place. In order to generate recognition from the public, the spacing and the gaze of the eyes has to be perfect. Once completed, Dr. Craig began bringing Jane Doe to life by modeling her face using an oil-based clay.
The fine detail as to the lids and the nose and the lips, that's basically where the artistic skills supersede or complement the scientific data. You really need both to do a good facial reconstruction.
After dozens of hours, the face of the murder victim began to take shape. Variations of the victim's appearance were photographed, and the clay model was sent to police in Sauk County. Investigators quickly released the photographs through the media. Still, weeks passed without a lead.